Hello, and I want to welcome you to a discussion on 6.7, graphing linear equations. We're going to have like a brief discussion and some guided practice through selected problem sets. Let's get started. So first, what you need to know is that you're going to deal with a four-quadrant plane. Quadrants 1, 2, 3, and 4. Notice they are in Roman numerals and they move counterclockwise in the numbering. Okay, what's going to happen is you're going to be given a set of coordinates, x and y. And x values are the horizontal and values, and the y's are the vertical values. And you're going to move, if it's positive, you're going to move either to the right or up. If the value is negative, you're going to move left or down, depending on what direction. For example, if you have a negative x, you want to move to the left. If you have a negative y, you want to move down. So a positive x and a positive y will yield you in quadrant 1. A negative x and a positive y will yield you being in quadrant 2. A negative x and a negative y will have you in quadrant 3. And finally, a positive x and a negative y will have you in quadrant 4. Let's do some application of what we just learned. Okay, we're going to plot some points. We have -2, -4. So since we have our values for x and y, remember our rules where x is horizontal movement and y is vertical. So -2, -4. So starting off, we have a negative, so we're moving left 2, because that's -2. -2. And then we have to move -4. Since it's negative, and that's the y, we have to move down. So -2, 4, it's this point right here. Let's actually label these A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, so this point right here is A. And what quadrant is that located in? If you look, that's going to be quadrant 3. So I'm going to write a Q and 3 in Roman numeral form. Okay, and now for point B, we have 3, 4. 3 is the x, so we have to move right 3. And +4 for y means we have to move up 4. So that is point B. And if you refer back to your previous notes from the first page, that's going to be in quadrant 1. Okay, looking at point C, we see 4, 0. So 4 is in for x, it's positive, so we move 4 to the right. 0 for y tells us to move nowhere and stay where we are. So that point is going to be C. And if we look, is that in quadrants 1 or 4? Well, it's in neither. It's actually on the x-axis. Okay, and for D we have 0, so we're at this this is called the origin, this 0, 0 right here. This is where we usually like to start at. So we're here, and 0 for x tells us to move nowhere, and then we have -3 and for y, so we just move down 3. And that's going to be point D. What quadrant is that in? It's in neither 3 or 4. It's actually on the y-axis. Okay, and finally for the point E, we have -1 for x, so we move back 1. And now we have 5 and for y, so we move up 5. That point right there will be E. And if we look, what quadrant is that in? That's in quadrant 2. Okay, so moving from problem set 1 to problem set 2, we are actually given an equation with two variables, x and y, and we can actually use this to find coordinate pairs. Because if you notice, there's x and y. And for this first part, the 0 comma something, 0 is going to be x, and we have to find out what y is going to be in this case. So to do that, you just first write the equation down like it is. Y equals 1/2 x minus 8. So whatever value you're given, plug it in and then just see what it yields for the opposite variable. So for this, we're given x is 0 since that 0 is the first number to appear. So we're just going to put a 0 in for x. And then we just rewrite the rest of the equation as it is. Okay, if we have y equals 1/2 times 0 minus 8, what happens to 1/2 times 0? That goes to 0. So we're just left with y equals 0 minus 8, or y equals 0. Or y equals negative 8, excuse me. So what do we put right here? We put the negative 8. Okay, if we look at this second point, we have negative 2 in for x, so we're looking for what y is. So we'll just rewrite our expression, or equation, excuse me, y equals 1/2 x minus 8. And again, we're just going to plug a value in for x, so we'll have y equals 1/2 times this new value for x, which is negative 2, minus 8. And let's go through and simplify. 1/2 times negative 2 is going to yield negative 1 minus 8. And finally, y 1 minus 8 just yields y equaling negative 9. And if we look, we have one more point to look at. That's something comma negative 3. And the goal for this is to actually see what x is going to be when y equals negative 3. So for this, unlike the others, we're going to plug in the value for y, since it's the second one appearing in the set. So we have negative 3 equals 1/2 x minus 8. And to start working away from the variable, we want to add 8 on both sides. So negative 3 plus 8 yields 5 equals 1/2 x. And how do we get that x by itself? We have to multiply by the reciprocal of that, which is 2 over 1, or just 2. So we're going to multiply by 2 over 1, or just 2 on both sides of the expression. This is just going to leave you with x on the right side. So 2 over 1, or just 2, times 5 is 10. So x is 10. Okay, and moving on, we want to use graphs to find x and y intercepts. We want to find the x and y intercepts and then graph them. So we're given this first example, find the x and y intercept of the following and then plot the ordered pair solutions. So to find the x-intercept, let y be 0 and solve for x. Write the ordered pair as a solution. So this is going to actually be x comma 0. So let's take our expression x minus y equals 5. Now if we let we let y be 0, and solve for x, what do we get? We get that x equals 5. And x equals 5, we can take our coordinate pair up here and just plug 5 in for x, comma 0, and that's the x-intercept. And now if we want to go to our graph and plot that, we have 5, so we'll go over 5, and 0 tells us to move nowhere. So that's the x-intercept. Now let's look at the y-intercept. Okay, so for the y-intercept, it says to let x be 0 and solve for y. And we'll write the ordered pair as 0, comma, whatever the y-intercept is. So for this, let's write our expression, x minus y equals 5. Let's let x be 0 in this case, and we're going to solve for y. So x in parentheses minus y equals 5 yields the answer y equals 5. So now use our coordinate pair here of open parentheses 0, comma 5, close parentheses. So now if we want to plot, you just go up 5 on the x-axis, 0 tells us to go nowhere, so that is the y-intercept. Okay, so now we have 2 points on the graph. That is enough to graph our point, so we can do that. And that is a rough look at what our graph should look like. And I always like to put arrows on the end of my graphs to show that they're going to go forever in each direction. This is going to conclude part 1 of our video.